Hey everybody, I'm Dave with Growing the Home Garden. Today I wanted to share with you what I am doing to fill up the Ollie raised vegetable garden bed that I just put together. Now, if you don't know, check the last video out, but it is a modular garden bed that you can shape into multiple different shapes. It's made of metal, so it's sturdy and it will last for a very long time. And it looks pretty darn cool with the colors that you can select. I picked one called Cobalt Blue and it just looks really good. Now it's extremely sturdy, and if you know anything about materials, wood raised beds just don't last. Metal ones do. But anyway, we've got to find a way to fill this up. It's about 17 inches tall, so we've got a lot of room to fill. We don't have to necessarily go all the way up, but we need to give a good amount of soil of some kind in order to have something growing. And in this particular case, I'm going to use a technique called hügelkultur, or a variation kind of, it won't be exact, but it's where you take large branches, put them down first, and then smaller branches, add it to it. Those things gradually start to break down over time, and they hold water and moisture for your plants. And then you add to it, it's kind of like lasagna gardening to an extent. And then you add some soil on top, and then it will gradually nourish the soil that's going to feed your plants as it all breaks down. So let me show you. And here is the raised vegetable garden actually in our vegetable garden. First, I took this heavy-duty landscape fabric and marked out where my pathways were going to be. So that goes all the way around this particular garden bed, and it overlaps underneath this garden bed just a little bit. And the reason I did that is because this does a very good job at keeping the weeds down and keeping my pathways clear. It saves me a lot of time and work. Now in here, what I started doing is laying down cardboard and newspaper and stuff like that that's going to all biodegrade eventually, and also serve as a weed suppression thing, because the bottom of this is actually open. I don't have landscape fabric except for maybe 6 to 8 inches on either side, and so there is going to be open area in the middle for drainage and soil. And there's always a possibility you could get some roots coming up, especially with things like Johnson grass or bindweed. Any of those things really likes to kind of creep up and will eventually come through. So we want to lay a thick layer of cardboard or something down to keep it from allowing those weeds to come on up. Now with hügelkultur, one of the first things you do is you lay down some really thick-sized logs. Check that one out right there. That was actually part of a Bradford pear tree that I cut down a few years ago and used as a border on a little garden bed area. You can tell it's kind of broken down a bit. It'll continue to break down here in this garden bed when it's under the ground. So we're going to go through and just fill this thing up as much as we can with the sticks, logs, and everything that we can salvage just from around the area to give it some mass, some good organic mass. So as you can see here, I've got a pretty good wheelbarrow load of some old firewood. We hadn't used the firewood, probably aren't going to, so I'm going to go ahead and use that here in the garden bed by filling it up as much as we can, kind of on that bottom layer. It's going to take a lot of organic matter to fill this up, but this is probably the best way to do it because this firewood is cheap and you don't need the nutrients in it right away. It's going to be down toward the bottom of everything, but it gives you some organic matter mass, helps to conserve water. And there's one wheelbarrow load. As you can tell, it is not enough yet. This is a very high garden bed to fill up. It's going to take a lot of material. Okay guys, it's been a little bit. In fact, it's been about, I don't know, 2 months or so since I was working on this project. Things happen, you get busy, stuff gets put aside. But today I want to go ahead and start getting this filled up. You can see here where I've got some dried up grass clippings and stuff in here. We've got some sticks, some different things in here. I'm going to pull this out because that's bindweed. We don't want that growing. But it never pulls out that great. But anyway, what we're going to do next is we're going to fill up with some soil conditioner, and we're going to mix in some compost to it, and then we're going to be able to start planting into it. I don't necessarily need this all the way up to the edge. You know, it can probably come up to about here just fine and still do what I want it to do. All these logs and things in the bottom will eventually start to break down and rot and turn into compost underneath everything. So that's kind of what we're going to do. Next, I'm going to get the soil conditioner. Now, soil conditioner is basically just ground up bark and wood shavings, and I'll tear into that a little bit. You can see what that looks like here. I'll use that for some propagation stuff too on the side. That will break down, be more organic matter for the soil, and mixed in with the compost should make a pretty decent blend for these ollie raised bed vegetable gardens. So the idea for this one is to keep it for winter. And so I've got some hoops that we'll probably put up, do a little bit of a row cover to get started. And then after that, we'll maybe cover it with some plastic and get this one through the winter. And so here's our compost before I put it in the bin. I'm going to filter out some of this stuff here. You can see there's a lot of big things in here. There's some live roots of things that have crept in. That's probably Johnson grass right there, and we don't want it in that compost mix that we put in our raised bed here. But let me show you this. This here is one of the best ways to grow an avocado tree. That's just an avocado seed thrown in the compost bin, and as you can see, it's growing pretty well. That's the second one I pulled out today out of the compost bin. There's actually a couple others that look like they've rooted and have a pretty good start. But I'm going to pot this one up along with the other one, and we'll have a couple extra avocado trees growing. They are not hardy here in Tennessee, but they're fun to grow, maybe house plants, and maybe someday get an avocado. You never know. I wish they grew here. That's one of the trees I really wish grew here in Tennessee, but they just don't. It's too cold. So this wheelbarrow is approximately 6 cubic feet, according to the manufacturer. And so we're going to mix that in over here, and I've used 3 bags of the bark shavings here. So that makes 6 cubic feet of that, 6 cubic feet of that. So about equal proportions. And I'm guessing by the end of it, we'll have this pretty close to full, even though that's a little bit more than I actually intended to do. And again, grand total of filling this raised bed is only about $15 now. So here you can kind of see where we're at right now. There's a lot of unfinished compost still on top here. You can see kind of the chunkiness. You can see different things that didn't compost so well, like this is a skin of an avocado right there. There's another one. We eat a lot of avocados. We like them. But you can see here kind of how it looks. And what I'm going to do next is just leave it for a few days, let it rain, let that kind of break it down a little bit further over the next couple days, kind of let it rest. And then if I need to, come in with another layer of a soil on top so that it gets a much smoother look on the very top of it. Not that that's a huge deal. Lettuce and things like that should grow just fine. But if you notice here, you got lots of little pill bugs, lots of soil activity in here. They like to break down rotted stuff, rotting things, and so they can continue to keep on working right here in the garden bed and continue to break down stuff for us. So like I said, we'll give it a few more days, see what it turns into, and then we'll start doing some planting. I've got some seeds that have been started already for fall growing stuff, and I have some PVC type pipe to build little hoops over top of this. And this will kind of be our transition to winter bed. The rest of the vegetable garden is eventually going to come down because of course we're moving to a new property over the course of the next 9 months or so. So hopefully next spring we'll be on that new property and growing stuff over there. But this bed will serve as a really good winter bed that we can cover and just kind of keep our greens growing. So I'm Dave with Growing the Home Garden. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe. We'll see you next time.